Hey everyone, and welcome back. I took some time off creating videos and kind of being home for the holidays, but I am back and happy to be in the saddle again. Today's video addresses a fairly common question I get, that being, what's my creative process for creating content for TTRPGs, or specifically D&D 5e, because that's most of what I create for. This is a very common question, as if you know from something, it's probably from creating content on Twitter, and publishing it on DM's Guild, subclasses, spells, items, the like, anything like that. And today I'm going to go through a bit of a case study in terms of what that process is and how I apply it to specifically design of a subclass. So stay tuned. As I said, today's video is going to be something of a case study, and that case in particular is going to be the Lawman Roguish Archetype, which I released last summer. Any subclass, spell, item, ability, anything I would design starts from a point of inspiration, be it something I've seen in my life or a piece of media like a video game, a book, something that I just think would fit well in D&D or might be fun to play. In the case of the Lawman, there are two distinct points of inspiration. The first of these I stumbled across when researching just the rogue class in general for D&D. I knew I wanted to create a rogue, so I was looking into the history of the class. I found an old subclass from 2nd edition AD&D called the Troubleshooter. The Troubleshooter was described as a rogue that works against other rogues, though specifically they're supposed to be different than Investigators, which is already a subclass in 5e. However, that's about as specific as that description gets, so there's essentially a lot of free range to think of ideas individually and kind of get creative in that space. My initial concept was a class that had the ability to focus on traps and kind of secure areas rather than the rogue being able to check for traps and pick locks and that sort of thing. It might be able to enhance a lock by putting some device in it and increase the DC it would take to pick it, or create their own key and not be able to open it with the original key. However, I hit a bit of a brick wall designing past those initial abilities. I might still revisit it in the future, but upon taking some time to think, I eventually came across a second piece of inspiration, that being the classic Cowboy. Westerns are an incredibly popular genre, and it frankly surprises me that there are as few options as there are for them in D&D. Currently, there's Matt Mercer's Gunslinger, and I could make a case for the Samurai Fighter being a pretty decent gunslinger type. However, that's about as far as it goes in terms of the idea of a Western character in D&D. I really like the idea of an honorable gunslinger who might be able to kind of work within the bounds of a law rather than working against it from the rogue, kind of inverting that trope. As I've talked about before, I love that idea of trope inversion. I thought that in addition to that, I had a lot of experience designing things for Western campaigns specifically, as my last campaign was a fantasy Western of sorts, which I might get into in a later video, because there are a lot of fun stories in that. Shout out to the original 3 cowboys from that campaign, being Lockley, Clay, and Lucius. But yeah, I thought that the essential idea of a cowboy being a rogue was quite interesting, as I thought that it was the class that best fit that idea. I always like the idea in Westerns that the only thing separating the sheriff from the outlaw is a badge, and that's kind of played out in the subclass, and the fact that this class is a rogue specifically. However, in the design itself, I thought it was important to keep the idea of kind of the honorable duelist motif that these movies often have, and I thought that that was very much something that I focused on throughout the process, and I think you'll be able to see that as I kind of lay out the abilities themselves and how they came to fruition. This subclass's first two abilities are called Authoritative Presence and Dueling Expert. The former of these, Authoritative Presence, is similar to the Scout Rogue kind of baseline ability. It grants the rogue expertise in 2 relevant skills, in this case, Intimidation and Persuasion, both of which seem as if they'd be quite important for a Western sheriff type. Furthermore, it grants the rogue proficiency in either crossbows or firearms. This is up to the DM's discretion. You could also go with both. And I thought that was important to kind of maintain the core feel of the rogue. And the idea of the lawman, because it doesn't quite make as much sense with the bow, though it could still work. But yeah, I thought it'd be best to give as many options as possible. And I've had players want to play rogues with guns before, so that baking that into the rules might be helpful for answering questions for DMs down the line. The second and more mechanically unique ability is called Dueling Expert. This gives the rogue a new way to use their sneak attack. Particularly, the rogue has sneak attack against any creature that has all of its hit points, provided they don't have disadvantage on the attack roll. I've thought that this kind of captured the feel of the classic duel in like the town square in a Western. Potentially because in that situation, neither rogue would have sneak attack, and that kind of doesn't make sense to me, because it's usually like one blow and that's done. And that's kind of the essence of sneak attack in itself, at least to me. So I thought that it'd be good to give this rogue an ability that really allows them to take advantage of that and make it them able to benefit from sneak attack without necessarily needing to be dishonorable, hiding, that sort of thing. And I also thought that it was fairly mechanically balanced, as it is powerful to give the rogue a new way to sneak attack, but it is also balanced with the fact that it's only once per combat on a creature in most cases, provided they don't heal. And I thought that it was interesting to just give them a new way to sneak attack in general, and I liked when the Swashbuckler did that. I did think this was less powerful than that, as a Swashbuckler is always on, and you can always access it as long as you're individually engaged with nobody else present. But this still provides a good kind of feel of the honorable sheriff type motif. The Lawman's 9th level ability is a play on the sheriff being quick on the draw, which is why it's called quick on the draw. It gives the rogue a bonus to initiative equal to a d8, which allows them to kind of move earlier and be more ready for action at any given point. And I thought that it would also be good to give them an extra bonus action in first round of combat, potentially give them a little extra mobility, or they have a chance to like duck behind cover again if they end up shooting and missing. I thought that this gels very well with Dueling Expert, as moving earlier in initiatives makes you more likely to gain this new way of using your sneak attack, makes it more useful, sort of. And really having abilities gel together like that is the key to any class design that I think. I think that that's just something that everybody should strive to do, and I've had that accidentally happen a fair few times. But this was very much an intentional sort of parallel there, but it's very fun to do, and I think it always makes it fun playing the class as well, as it feels like you're really getting more potential as more abilities are coming online. The penultimate ability here is called Halt, with an exclamation point, and that exclamation point is very essential. Halt gives the rogue a new ability where they are able to, as an action, command a creature to freeze where they are, and if they fail a wisdom save, they essentially lose their movement, and they are unable to kind of continue fleeing or continue advancing. That's essentially able to be very, very helpful in fleeing enemies or enemies going towards maybe the back line that you don't want to go to. And I always enjoy giving classes new actions that they can always rely on at any point, though they might be a save, so it might be kind of save or suck, risky, but it's better than having things that are kind of limited use in my eyes, especially at this high of a level. I think it's good to just give them new options that they can just rely on whenever they need it. And finally, Eye for Battle is pretty unique when compared to other abilities that currently exist in 5th edition. Once per short or long rest, whenever initiative's rolled, the rogue is able to pick who goes first. No matter what anybody else rolls, the person that the rogue picks within 60 feet of them, which can include themselves, moves first as if they rolled one higher than whatever the next highest result was, without needing to roll at all. I think that this is pretty unique, and I think it's important to give classes abilities that kind of almost break the rules, but kind of bend it in a unique way that allows them to really feel like they've mastered their set of abilities. Furthermore, this allows a great amount of utility. You could let your healer go first if your party's already weakened from a fight before and they need a new boost. You can make yourself go first if you really want to get damage off, and that's even improved by the fact that if the rogue does use it on themselves, their sneak attack gains an extra 4d6 damage for exclusively the first round. I think that this is one of my favorite abilities I've designed, frankly, and it's very, very fun when used in practice, at least in my experience, but it really makes them feel essentially like they're kind of a master of assessing situation in a second and figuring out who would be best to go first. I'm sure it'd be even enemies in some points, but yeah, no, that was, Eye for Battle is a very, very fun feature in my experience, though I might be a little biased. So, what did you think? What do you think of the design process? How do you go about designing subclasses, abilities, monsters, that sort of thing? Comment what you think below. I'll link to a finished version in the description below. It'll be free. Just feel free to check it out. In addition to that, I recently released a kind of compendium of all the subclasses that I've ever released. That's only 50 cents. They've all been kind of redesigned and updated and refreshed, and I really hope you check that out and enjoy it. It would mean a lot to me if you do. Also, be sure to like the video and share it. Subscribe if you're new here. I have found that a lot of my viewers aren't subscribed to this channel, so if you would like to, that'd be much appreciated. But yeah, I'm excited to make more regular videos now that I'm back from break, and I already have my idea for the next one, and I'm excited to share it with you. Thank you again for watching, and I hope you all are doing well.